see we've got some bad weather in India. It could be very turbulent in that area, Steve.
Yes.
All right. And then on across Calcutta into Bangkok. What's the load like?
The aircraft's full. There's about 3 tons fuel available to you. And you've got an airborne time of 13:30 GMT.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you very much.
After 25 minutes briefing, the crew of Speedbird 9, as flight BA009 to Bangkok and Sydney as known, load the flight computers for takeoff. It takes only 5 minutes for them to load the entire route from Heathrow to Bangkok into the navigation computer. New technology has revolutionized their job in virtually every respect.
I'm Derek.
Derek? Okay, hi. And would you like some tea, Derek?
I have a cold drink like Ted might do to kick off with.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm Ted Deacon.
Ted, hi. Ted, I'm Mina.
Mina. Hello, I'm Steve.
Hi, Steve,
I'd
I'm
like
Mina.
a soft drink, something cool, like bitter lemon, lots of ice.
Okay.
Give me a spare can, please.
Yeah, sure.
I'll have a Coke, same sort of thing, but a spare can. Right, I'll give you my cup. I've got a cup. I'll go and fetch it, give it to you.
44 K, Mr. Stewie. Go down to this first galley, crossover, and then right through to the rear cabin.
If I decide to reject the takeoff, I'll course stop, fully apply the brakes, closing the thrust levers.
First Officer Steve Booth gives his briefing for takeoff.
Selects the speed brake. I'll select all 4 up to reverse idle. Call me in or out of symmetrical power as available.
It isn't just baggage that the plane is carrying.
New total on board, Captain, 329. All the livestock is present in hold 5.
So what have we got in the livestock?
You've got...
Oh, it's
it's actually
dogs, and cats.
Yes, there's 2 cats, and there's assortment both to Sydney and Melbourne.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. No affidavits for that then.
Now they knocked them on the head.
Have a nice flight.
I haven't signed it yet.
Heathrow, good afternoon. Speedbird 009. Tango 8 with Sierra, requesting our start for Bangkok.
Speedbird 9, roger. Start-up approved for Bangkok. Departure slot 1310. Cleared Brooklands Park, 2 Foxtrot departure.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Shore Captain speaking. My name is Ted Deacon. I'd like to welcome you aboard this British Airways 747 to Bangkok and Sydney, Melbourne. We are already up here now to start engines and push back off our stands.
Speedbird 9, push back approved, Sierra 1.
119 for push, Speedbird 9, 3 up. Hello, ground, flight deck. Confirm that we're clear to pressurise.
Clear pressurised, clear to start.
Pressurised, clear to start.
Give your motor down, Okay.
Speedbird 9, with 327 passengers on board and 14.5 tons of freight, is eased back from its stand at Heathrow's Terminal 4, 12 minutes late.
Start in 3.
That's the wave off. Okay, taxi. Explosive. Ground, Speedbird 009, taxi.
The basic design of the 747 is more than 20 years old, and the job of its pilots has changed radically in that time. They're no longer the jet jockeys of popular imagination. The stresses and strains on these pilots are very different from those endured by earlier generations of aviators.
Speedbird 9, hold short 27 left, contact 1187.
187, 009.
Most of the 300 passengers are quite unaware of the revolution that has taken place in the cockpit.
This is the brake position and is shown on your safety card. If you're wearing high-heeled shoes, they should be removed at this time. To help you leave the aircraft quickly...
Speedbird 9, continue up 05, monitor 1185 for departure, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Okay, it's clear to go, and it's clear on the approach.
Below the line, please.
Below the line, please, Derek.
Speedbird 9, clear takeoff 27 right, the wind's 18015 knots.
Everybody ready?
Yes.
Standing them up.
stabilised.
knots.
I have control.
Your controls. B1. Rotate. B2. Ready to climb.
Gear up.
Gear up.
They've burnt off 2 gallons of fuel per second on takeoff. Now the plane is hand-flown by the first officer along a pre-arranged route until, over Clacton, exactly 8 minutes after leaving Heathrow, the autopilot is engaged. The plane will not be manually flown again until 12 seconds before touchdown in Bangkok. For 98% of the flight, the plane will fly on autopilot. The plane is controlled by a sophisticated series of computers. The flight manager system shows on its screen the exact progress the plane is making. Every 747 now has 3 navigation computers. The captain tells the computer the exact position of his departure point, and the computer navigates the plane to Bangkok.
It's the same system that literally found the moon from the space shot, and it's been a feedback from the space shot into this sort of navigation nowadays. I think most people now, the generation of children coming to the world, know that aeroplanes do fly on autopilots, and they don't expect us to see us fighting the controls like James Bond does, or in a film, or Wayne, wasn't it? Wayne with us sort of doing all this sort of thing.
The main part of the pilot's job now is to contact each air traffic controller en route and let them know the aircraft's estimated time for passing over set beacons. This makes sure that there's the right space between planes flying the same route.
Moscow control, Speedbird 9, position.
Speedbird 9, position in November, maintain 10,100 meters, contact...
The air traffic controller can tell them to be at various beacons at different times. The pilot dials this information into the computers, and the autopilot ensures the plane does as it's told.
Hello, sir. Everything all right?
Where are we?
We're just coming up to Moscow now. We're about 50 minutes from Moscow. Flying an airliner is hours and hours of boredom, punctuated by moments of stark terror. And I think that's a very good way of explaining it. Yes, you do get bored. But there again, I enjoy the job, I enjoy flying, and I enjoy the airline life. But I can't say I don't get bored. Yes, there are moments on a long haul you do get bored. That's again when you can go off and have a rest and perhaps meet the passengers or do something other than sit here and do nothing.
With flights becoming longer and longer, and with much of the actual flying done by computer, the job of the pilots and flight engineer is reduced mainly to monitoring the equipment. Sometimes it's difficult to stay awake.
I think every pilot that does large time zone changes and has restless nights down the routes and then has an 11-hour flight like this to go to is going to feel tired. It's going to feel moments of lack of concentration. The thing is to recognize that lack of concentration and deal with it before it gets dangerous. And that is to tell the rest of the crew, I'm tired, I'd like to have a little 40 winks just to get my brain rested. The apathy comes in when you're all tired and nodding together and you all nod off together. I'm not saying that we do. Time to come when you are tired and we're going to nod off. Let the other people know.
One way of filling in time is to eat.
Thank you very much. That's lovely. Thank you very much indeed.
The crew get specially cooked meals, and to avoid any possibility of food poisoning, they all have a different main course.
At the time I was going through, it was tornado or bust, and I was sort of...
With the increased automation has come real concern about the way the pilot's job is evolving.
Basically, if you put someone in a dark, cramped environment and they're tired because they've been up for extended hours and they're flying at night, and you give them nothing to do, it's very hard to keep the eyes open. And in fact, what happens is they nod off. And the danger is that you truly have a totally automated plane with no human oversight of it in that case.
Dr. Martin Moore-Eade is a world expert in the study of sleep patterns. He's conducted experiments with other workers who perform monitoring tasks through the night, like engineers in nuclear power stations. He's in no doubt about the extent of the problem among American pilots.
Oh, I think it's very common. I think it's accepted as such. It's not really publicly talked about so much. But we did a study of looking at, in one of our studies, looking at 30 pilots over the course of a couple of months. We found that
is that he's there to perform heroically when the fallible machine goes wrong. Like the pilot of this US jet, who landed the plane when one undercarriage wheel was stuck. Due to his fine pilot skills, the lives of those on board were saved. The statistical reality is very different. Roughly 70% of all fatal airline accidents are caused by pilot error. Like this one in Brazil in 1989, when a Varig Airlines plane crashed in the jungle. The board pilots had been listening to commentary of an international football match being played in Sao Paulo. Dr. Moore-Eade believes the most plausible explanation for the fate of the Korean jumbo that strayed into Russian airspace and was shot down was that fatigued pilots punched the wrong data into the computer and then simply all dozed off together. Dr. Moore-Eade maintains that for every disaster, there are many narrow escapes.
There's a plane
on long-haul flights is to have a relief crew on board. As the sun sets on Speedbird 9, the relief first officer takes over from Captain Deacon for the middle portion of the flight. There's also a relief flight engineer. So for this middle passage, the original crew of 3 can all be relieved.
Oh, hello, Lynn.
Hello.
You had a good rest?
Yes, very good, thank you.
Good. Right, well, I need a break now.
I'm with you.
On Speedbird 9, the relief first officer is a woman, Lynn Barton, one of 10 women first officers on the 747 fleet. There are, as yet, no woman captains. While she monitors the equipment, Captain Deacon is able to go to bed. This 747 Series 200 carries bunks for the crew to sleep in. Now the plane is over Afghanistan and an electric storm.
Kabul, Speedbird 9 on 3-4.
Speedbird 9, Kabul, good evening.
Good evening. Speedbird 9 is estimating November...
Officially, British Airways encourages women to join as pilots, but there's still so few as to indicate prejudice against them from some male pilots, as well as from some unexpected quarters.
I was on the jumbo one day and I'd made the announcements, the cabin announcements, because it's my sector. And the captain went down to walk around and speak to the first-class passengers. And there was a very smartly dressed, nice-looking lady in first class, very sort of executive-type looking lady. And she took one look at the captain and she just turned to him and said to him, "You haven't left her up there on her own, have you?" You know, and he said, "Well, no, she's perfectly all right, you know."
Lynn Barton, with the relief flight engineer, monitors the plane through the night, while the passengers and Captain Deacon sleep. But the night is not necessarily the most dangerous time.
The worst I find is when one's coming eastbound back to the UK, and that's, for instance, coming back from the States. You're coming back and you've reported in for work at approximately sort of midnight British time. You've only been in the States 24 hours anyway, which is a very difficult time to arrange a sleep pattern in. And then you're flying back across the Atlantic in the middle of the night, and then dawn comes up. I think most long-haul pilots will say that the dawn can be terribly spectacular. It also makes you feel as though your eyes are full of grit, and you feel very red-eyed. Just looking at the dawn as it comes up, and that's most people's low point, I think.
Speedbird 9 is now over Burma. Captain Deacon has risen from his bunk and is back at the controls.
Rango to Speedbird 9, the TMO boundary at 39er, flight level 370. We estimate overhead at 53.
Right, Roger, Speedbird 9, report overhead.
An hour and a half before touchdown at Bangkok, it's time for breakfast.
Okay, yes, let's have it now. Oi, can I have your cornflakes? That's more important than the bloody flight. Come on. No, mine's the one with bananas.
There's no banana.
Who's having the apple one then?
I think you said that yours was a banana. The definite statement was made. And it's been recorded.
Speedbird 9 descend to 1,600, QNH 1004.
We'll be going down in 150 miles time. Expecting a radar approach to an ILS on...
Steve gives a briefing for an ILS landing. ILS stands for Instrument Landing System. Two beams are directed up from the airfield so that the plane can land automatically. The autopilot will be disengaged 12 seconds before landing. This is normal practice in clear weather.
Provided the pilot or the autopilot keeps those two bars crossed, right, the aircraft is going to be on the ILS system centre line and glide slope, so that the autopilot will be following these two beams until we see the runway quite clearly, probably in the region of about 400 feet, 300 or 400 feet from the ground. Then the autopilot will be taken out and Steve will land the aircraft manually.
As the plane descends, it rains in the cockpit.
What's happening here is that during the whole flight, the atmosphere in the aircraft is moist from us breathing. And the metal work here has got so cold that the moisture is frozen on the metalwork like frost. And that's it. We had a white film of frost on there. You can still see it down here. And now that's melting. And then the water is just running off. So we all get wet. I'm getting soaked here with water dripping off, look, from the condensation frost now melting. In fact, the Bangkok airfield, Steve, is just there now, look. You can see it.
Yeah, it's coming to view. Quite nice, isn't it?
So we'll continue with an auto approach.
Speedbird 9, Bangkok, identified is in 8,000, unit 1003, information Alpha, no speed control.
Affirmative, we are descending as quick as possible now. We're making okay. Speedbird 9.
And selecting ILS.
Nav arms, glide slope arm.
Right, a gear check.
It's down in and green. It's fine, Steve, it's fine. Now what are you doing?
Just looking for the glide slope. Didn't decide to go for it.
No, he doesn't like your crossbars. Can we...
I think it might do.
There it is. Now we've got glide slope green. Bangkok Tower, Speedbird 9, finals 219.
Speedbird 9. Can we approach 219? Speedbird 9, wind 080 degrees, 5 knots, clear to land 219.
Clear to land, Speedbird 9. 100 above.
Autopilot coming out.
They're all out.
Decide.
Land.
The plane is now being flown manually for the first time since Clacton.
100 feet. 50 feet. 30 feet. Still over 70%.
Right, contact ground control
19, clearing right, Speedbird 9. Okay, welcome to Bangkok. Those are coming here, and hope you have a pleasant...
The computers have got the plane to Bangkok. The human beings have to find the right place to park.
Ground, Speedbird 9, clearing right, 21 right.
Speedbird 9, right hand, Charlie, India, taxiway 2.
Charlie, India, taxiway 2.
Which finger is gate 22 on?
We've got to go through into India, and it's on the third pier.
So, okay. Next left, then right, then left again.
Yeah, next left. That's right, next left. then right, and in past that Thai jump, DC-10.
If you could watch my left wing tip for me, Captain.
Yeah. Stay on the yellow, you're fine. Gate 22, was it?
22, he said.
Well, 22's occupied.
Yeah.
Speedbird 9 ground.
9, could you go to that gate again, please? We thought it was 22.
Speedbird 9, taxi right turn Charlie. Try India again, parking bay 32, bay 32.
Stand by, checking with the taxi.
Oh, we've got to go all the way back for Tango 32?
Affirmative, taxi right turn Charlie.
They want us on 32 now.
Right on Charlie, and we'll go to Tango 32. No, where's Tango 32? Anybody know?
Yes, it's a similar position, but on the middle pier.
Well, they gave us the wrong one, didn't they?
Speedbird 9, right turn India to bay 22.
Roger, we've got it now, so thank you. Bay 32 in the morning.
There are electronic aids to help the pilot park the plane once he's found the right gate.
As we come into the parking bay, dead ahead of me at eye level, there's 2 green lights. And below that, there's a strip, which you can see now is green. If we were to go to the right side of that would go red. If we went to the left side would be red. But we want to keep it steady green, which is what we're doing now. When we stop, the green lights will go amber, and then it will go red. When they go red, we stop. A little bit more right. That's fine. Hold it there. There's the ambers. Stop.
Speedbird 9 has flown the 5,936 miles to Bangkok in 11 hours 40 minutes. It's now 8 o'clock in the morning in Bangkok. The same plane will fly on to Australia, but the pilots will change over here. The crew that will take the plane on are half an hour late arriving.
Traffic was unbelievable. Hello, John. Nice to meet you. Hello. Hello, Tim. Nice to meet you. Is this the team here then? Yes.
Because it's only an 8.5-hour flight to Sydney, there's only the standard 3-man crew, 2 pilots and a flight engineer.
Hello.
Yeah, it was terrible traffic, absolutely unbelievable.
Worse
than the M25 in the rush hour.
Yeah, well, we've got to go in with it now. Anyway, got a clean aeroplane. It's going well. No problems. Lands ever so nice.
During the 70-minute turnaround, there's a lot to do. Sacks of rubbish are removed from the plane. Most passengers choose to leave the plane and stay in the airport's transit lounge, but some try and stay on board to rest. The dogs and cats going on to Australia are watered. It's 80 degrees in the shade. The plane takes on 117 tons of fuel.
Clean-up height is, what, 1,020 feet? And if at any time we get a fire warning, just reset the master warning. Can't think of anything else, can you? No, good, okay. Okay, ground. Clear to start engines and clear to push back and face north.
Roger, copy.
Okay, brakes released, pushing at 1.8.
1.8, thank you, see. Pushing back now.
Okay. And turning foreground.
Roger, clear for.
Despite the new crew arriving late, Speedbird 9 leaves only 8 minutes behind schedule. The takeover crew will fly it for the last leg of the journey to Sydney. But for Captain Deacon and his crew, it's time for a rest.
Good morning, girls. Welcome to the Untitled Chapter. Welcome to this tiny hotel. Thank you.
Oh, I'm tired.
The flight crew check into the Dusit Thani, one of the best hotels in Bangkok. BA flight crews expect to stay in luxury hotels like this because they're entitled to hotels with a 24-hour coffee shop where the rooms can be blacked out so they can sleep during the day and where there's a telex and phone. At the Dusit Thani, BA captains are entitled not just to a room, but a suite, which they are shown over personally.
I'm so tired, I'm going to go straight to bed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Speedbird 9, contact approach 119.1 when airborne, wind 160 degrees, 8 knots, clear for takeoff immediately.
Speedbird 9, 190.1 airborne, clear immediate takeoff.
Okay for the switch, yep.
Guard closed, lights out, before takeoff check complete.
Standing them up.
Engine stable.
Set power.
On the Sydney leg, Captain Richards flies the plane for takeoff.
80 knots, I have control. B1. Rotate. B2. Positive climb.
You're up.
Bangkok, good morning. Speedbird 9, array on 4 departure.
Speedbird 9, identify climb to 11000.
The captain hand flies the plane for 10 minutes into the 8.5-hour flight. Then he engages the autopilot once more. After his nap, Captain Deacon meets up with the rest of his crew. Because of the length of their flight, they're entitled to 2 complete nights' rest at the Dusit Thani.
I think it might look glamorous. The glamour side, it looks glamorous. I don't treat it as a glamorous job or glamorous lifestyle. I think it's very nice, but I wouldn't say it's totally glamorous.
And what of the other perks that a pilot is supposed to have?
It's a fallacy that the stewardesses make a beeline for the captain first slip away from London. That's not true at all. Most of the stewardesses today have got boyfriends at home or they're married. They've got their own lives. They're not doing the job for jumping into bed with captains and crew.
Captain Deacon's wife, Lynn, remains at home near Banbury.
How was the journey, Sarah?
Because of his job, she was left alone with their 3 children for much of their childhood. She believes she changed as a result.
You get really strong. You have to. And you have to be able to mend things.
BURROWS 0400, flight level 2.
Speedbird 9 is making good progress to Australia and is now in contact with Singapore Air Traffic Control. The captain on this leg is one of BA's most senior captains, Captain John Richards. He's a man still excited by his job.
Well, look at this airplane, for example. It weighs something like 370 tons on takeoff. If you've walked around it and seen the colossal size of it, it's absolutely amazing. I've been flying it for 6 or 7 years, and it still amazes me how it managed to get airborne. It's an unbelievable piece of equipment. And the range, the distances we fly are incredible. London to Hong Kong direct, 14-hour flights.
With the expansion in air travel, there's a worldwide shortage of pilots. British Airways has recently launched a massive recruitment drive. Successful candidates come here to the British Aerospace Flying College at Prestwick. The school expects to turn out over 100 qualified first officers a year. Many cadets come here at 18, having just done A-levels. In 70 weeks, they're qualified to fly as first officers on BA planes and can expect to earn £23,000 a year as a starting salary. BA say their selection process is designed to find the placid, stable individual who's not deterred by a life of routine. No previous flying experience is necessary. But time isn't just spent in the classroom and in the plane. Before graduating, cadets have an hour of glory on the stage.
Well, because my hair dryer's plugged into it, you better turn off something else that's pretty non-essential, like, you know, the nav lights.
The nav lights, okay, dear. There we go, autopilot.
Oh, no, you can't do that, because it's really stiff when you do this. Oh, Ethel, you've got to give us a hand.
Oh, all right.
Come on, Ethel. No, that's not very funny, Ethel. No.
They're all going to be airline pilots, and airline pilots at some stage in their career have to stand up and talk to their passengers. Well, 747 up to 400 of them. First time you do it in your life, it's terrifying. So we take the terror out of it here by letting them practice here in front of their colleagues.
Have you got the right frequency? I don't know. You tuned 10. What do you think? Oh, that's a lot better. Better. Oh, that's much more soothing. Oh, that's better. Oh, that's much better. Oh, it's so relaxing on autopilot.
These two cadets are mimicking so-called girly pilots in the cockpit of a jumbo on autopilot. Only 1 in 16 cadets is a woman, despite a policy of equality in selection.
Yes, I didn't have time to dry it this morning. I suppose I better plug it in. I'll do it here. Oh, there we go. Oh, it's lovely, isn't it, the view? Oh, it is. Oh, these 400s, they're great, aren't they? They are. You don't have to do anything. Dry your hair on the flight deck. That's right, isn't it? Lovely.
This is the plane they're making fun of, recognized by its distinctive wingtips. It's the very latest 747, the 400 series. In the BA flight simulator at Heathrow, pilots are retrained to fly on the new jumbo. There's been a revolution in the cockpit. Gone are the traditional dials, replaced by video screens.
80 knots. 81. Rotate.
On the new jumbo, the autopilot can be engaged not 10 minutes after takeoff, but approximately 15 seconds after the wheels leave the ground.
Engaging autopilot. It's the finest autopilot ever built. It's simple as that. I mean, we engage it at 350 feet and it doesn't come out until we've stopped at the end of or stopped on the runway after doing a landing. It's a very fine autopilot. It can cope with crosswinds, it can cope with all sorts of things, so that's the state of the art. That's it. Well, this instrument basically combines many other instruments on a conventional aircraft. It's called a primary flying display. Speed indicator here, we've got a height indicator here, we've got our attitude here, which is the position of the aircraft relative to the horizon. We've got a compass down the bottom here. In this instrument, we actually have a map display.
The automation is so sophisticated that the data bank on the navigation computer carries the location of every airport in the world suitable for a plane this size to land at. At the touch of a switch, the pilot can call up detailed information about the fuel system. He can monitor the exact status of every single door on the aeroplane. He can even look at the individual temperature and tire pressure of every wheel on the landing gear. But there's been a bigger revolution on the 400. The throttles used to be manipulated by the flight engineer, but now they move automatically. The engineer is no longer needed.
Flight engineer, basically, gone into this. And this screen here.
In the new machine age, those who work with machines are likely to be replaced by them.
Well, from a personal point of view, I'm very sorry not to be involved with it. I'd love to be involved with the new technology and the new aeroplanes as they come along. It'll be the first long-haul aircraft that I've not really been involved with for many, many years in one capacity or another. But, it's not really true that the job's been taken over by a microchip. Maybe most of this has disappeared now into the memory of the computer and is displayed differently. But I think they're going to be missing something by not having a flight engineer, dedicated flight engineer.
What sorts of things do you think they're missing?
Ground handling, technical knowledge on the aircraft, which is probably deeper than the pilots have. Somebody who's actually worked on the aircraft with spanners, that sort of thing.
The A320 Airbus has a flight management system even more sophisticated than the latest jumbos. It has fly-by-wire controls. This means that the mechanical links between the pilot's controls and the flying surfaces of the aircraft have been replaced by electronic ones. The first time in aviation history, the plane will simply refuse to do things that its gauges say are dangerous.
We roll to the bank angle that we want, but the speed and the angle of attack have remained.
For instance, it's impossible for the pilot to stall this aircraft, however hard he tries. But is that as far as automation can go? 10 years ago, engineers at NASA in America developed a plane they called HIMAT. This fighter displayed more agility than any warplane ever built, yet it was unmanned. The pilot sat on the ground watching a video display and relaying his controls to the aircraft. The test was a success. Yet the project ran into difficulties.
The pilots were not enthusiastic about the program. That had a bad impact on the research engineers who would like to be on a program where the pilots, who are looked up to, think highly of the program itself. So it was somewhat negative from that standpoint. They would prefer to not have the next airplane, test airplane, also be unpiloted, because that's not the kind of programs that they look forward to culminating their career. I would say that was the reason why they were primarily negative.
Because of such opposition, the HIMAT unmanned fighter now hangs in a museum in Washington. But Dwayne Dietz does not believe it marks the end of automated flight.
It may be, if there's a urgent need to do something, like we don't have enough pilots, so something drives you to this, you might tackle some piece of it, like the air cargo piece, and say, well...
Base. Perth Control, good afternoon. Speedbird 9 on 133.4.
Speedbird 9 on Perth Control, good afternoon.
Speedbird 9, position at map for 206.
As the plane nears Sydney, it comes within range of Sydney air traffic control. Nearly 200 people work here, instructing all traffic coming into the airport. They work in shifts and, unlike pilots, put in many hours of overtime. Before appearing on radar, the plane's tracked by the times it crosses various beacons.
Just working on the times, I know that he's not estimating this Latin long until time 09 or 05 GMT, which is about 3 hours away, and I'll get a very good estimate done about half an hour before. The controller beforehand will give me his actual position, his flight level, and his estimate for that Latin long Mazda. That is Alpha Juliet Juliet, flight level 350 direct to Casino. I'll see the aircraft coming onto the radar about 30 miles to the west of Parkes. The radar coverage is, this is a mosaic map. He'll start to merge with aircraft coming in from Adelaide, and they sort of all track towards this position called Binder. And it gets a bit messy there, so we discuss amongst ourselves what levels they can have. And then I'll hand him off to the arrivals controller when he's on descent into Sydney.
Mike Zulu Kilo, turn left heading 360 for downwind. Reduce speed not above 140 knots. Your number 2 to a...
It's an extremely stressful job.
You can have 15 aircraft on frequency and be controlling them and not be particularly busy.
£50,000 a year. A senior BA captain will earn a basic salary of about £50,000, with complex flight allowances on top, which brings some BA pilots' earnings to over £80,000 a year.
When you come down to airline pilots, basically, I think they're overpaid and underworked. They're certainly over-glamorised, if there is such a word. I think it's ridiculous, and bitter is not quite the real word. Amused. It's ironical to see how the sort of prestige attached to a job which is really systems monitoring.
How do I justify my salary, which isn't a vast salary? I mean, for all the training and experience I've now got in flying, it is not a vast salary compared with other people's training and qualifications in other walks of life, like doctors and like solicitors and barristers, who have got to the peak of their career. They're earning more than I am, and I'm at the peak of my career.
Delta Romeo November, clearance track direct to Bankstown, cruise amended altitude 2000, night VFR.
Now, I believe that in the future, and not in our generation, I don't think, but pilots will cease to be as such, as we were discussing before, pretty much the way flight engineers are all...
We're responsible for this aeroplane and for making sure that I avoid bumping into the ground and hitting other aeroplanes. So if in any doubt at all, then I will question the air traffic controller's instructions. That's basically my responsibility.
BA planes do not carry radar to locate other aircraft around them. They rely on the controllers to ensure the planes do not collide.
Speedbird 9 is out of 280 for 150. Is this for 16?
Speedbird 9, roger. Expect a left turn very shortly.
Speedbird 9.
Speedbird 9, turn left heading 010 to adjust downwind leg. 5 miles to touchdown.
Speedbird 9, roger left. On its final approach, the plane passes over Sydney with the harbour bridge in the distance.
Okay, gear down and landing check.
Captain Richards decides to land the plane manually, using the raw data from the instrument landing system at Sydney Airport to help him. Pilots do this to keep in practice, even though here they could land the plane automatically.
Okay, runway straight ahead, then inside.
Speedbird 9, clear to land.
Speedbird 9, clear to land.
100 above. 6 degrees. Coming on 5 degrees. 4.5 degrees. 4 degrees.
Side
3.5
land.
degrees aside. $100. 50. 30 feet.
As the plane lands, questions remain about the future of its pilots. How will man and machine be better integrated as automation increases? Could it be that pilots will go to sleep after takeoff, only to be woken for landing? Will air traffic controllers fly the plane themselves from the ground? Or will the conservatism of pilots and public mean that the job will get duller and duller, with pilots finally condemned to sit in front of the controls doing nothing?
Okay for the after landings.
Whatever happens to air travel, the age of the jet jockey is over.
Speedbird 9, across runway 07, then take next taxiway left for the southern apron.
Speedbird 9, roger, cross 07, first left for the southern apron.
How are the brakes then, Alan?
Brakes working. Oh, I'm checking again.
Okay. Okay, I'll endorse the manual. Okay, brakes to park.
Pressure 3, 4, 5.
Okay, finish with the engines then. Oh, welcome to Sydney. Chocks at 46. All 4 engines running down.